Good afternoon, good evening. I'd like to call the 2022 Redistricting Advisory Board to order. Welcome. We're glad you've joined us for today's Redistricting Advisory Board meeting. We encourage members of the public to participate by appearing in person, watching the meeting online, or listening by phone, and providing live comment or submitting written public comment in advance. In-person and virtual options to watch and participate in the meeting while it is occurring is available at orlando.gov/meetings. The Redistricting Advisory Board is pleased to hear all non-repetitive public comment. Large groups are requested to name a spokesperson. When you are recognized, please state your name and address and direct all of your remarks to the board, and limit your comments to 3 minutes per item or as set during the meeting. The City of Orlando encourages courteous civil discourse in online settings. Persons making public comment are asked to conduct themselves with the same rules of decorum as they would in a traditional public meeting. At this time, I'd like to ask everyone to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to ask the Secretary for a roll call and quorum check, please.
Roger Chapin.
Here.
Alana Brenner. Here. Sharon Riley. Chuck Holmes.
Present.
Freddie O'Grates.
Here.
Katie Fleury.
Here.
Dan Kirby.
Here.
Greg Lee.
Present.
Alejandro Pizzini.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. At this time, again, I'd like to welcome members of the public. I'd like to welcome the board, and I'd like to give each board member an opportunity to introduce themselves and how they came to serve on this board, please. Mr. Holmes.
Hi, my name is Chuck Holmes. I'm from District 1, resident there, and I was requested to go on the board from Commissioner Jim Gray. And I'd like to thank all my colleagues on the board for the great process and the time spent together. It's been a good outcoming. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Freddie O'Grates. I live in District 2. I represent District 2. I was asked by Commissioner Ortiz, and it has been a great experience to be part of this board and the process, an interesting process in terms of defining the way the city will look for the next 10 years.
Katie Fleury. I live in District 3 and was appointed to this volunteer board by Commissioner Stewart, and I'm just thankful to be able to be a part of the process.
Dan Kirby, resident of District 4, representing District 4, was appointed by Commissioner Patty Sheehan.
Roger Chapin, City of Orlando resident, appointed by Mayor Dyer as an at-large committee member.
Alana Brenner, I'm a resident of District 3, but was appointed by Mayor Dyer to serve.
Greg Lee, I'm a resident of District 3, but appointed by Commissioner Hill to represent District 5 in this process. And I, too, echo the comments of my fellow board members. I appreciate the opportunity to participate in this process and appreciate the city's professional staff and all their hard work.
Alejandro Pizzini, I represent District 6. I was appointed by Commissioner Burns. It's been a pleasure working on this board, and I appreciate the staff and everything they've done for us and how thorough they've been in providing us all the information. So thank you to the staff.
Great, thank you. At this point, we'll move to item number 5, which is the consideration of meeting minutes. We have the Redistricting Advisory Board meeting minutes of May 3rd, and the action requested would be for a motion and a second to approve. If no one has any edits, I would look for that.
Mr. Chair, I'd move to approve the meeting minutes for May 3rd, 2022 as prepared.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Show the minutes adopted. We don't have any staff reports that may come up under new business. So, and there is no old business, so we will move into new business. And item A is approval of final report and recommendation of proposal 1D.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm going to go through Proposal 1D, comparison of what the current districts are and the ones in the map proposal. And then if you have any questions about that, just let me know. So I'll get set up here. Okay, there we go. So under consideration, here is map 1D. So here is our current District 1. It's in orange. I'm only showing the top because it's a large district. It's easier to see if you zoom in. So just assume that everything south of the screen is in District 1. So this is the proposed change in map 1D. The X's mean it's going to go away from that district. So you can see everything that's marked with an X is proposed to be removed from District 1. So here's the actual shape of the proposed District 1. You can see that the boundaries essentially are going to be that if you are northwest of TPC Boulevard and McCoy Road, you become District 2. And if you're outside of that, you're going to be in District 1. Here's District 2. That's the current boundaries in red. Here's the proposed change. Once again, the X's mean it's going away. So in that top northwest area, you can see some of it that's proposed to be removed. And the areas with the pluses are proposed to be added to District 2. So here's the proposed shape. You can see here the airport area is in District 2. The boundary would be essentially Conway Road here on the west, and then down to the south to the area we just looked at, northwest of McCoy Road and TPC Boulevard. District 3, this is the current shape. The proposed change is here for this to be added to District 3. And so here's the final proposed shape. This is Bumby Avenue. And so this area to the east was added. District 4, current shape. Proposed changes. This is the area we just looked at here. This is proposed to be added and added here. Actually, I think this is supposed to be moved over. Added, and then this is proposed to be removed. So here's the final proposed shape. Everything in green. District 5, current shape. Just this small area proposed to be added. Here's the final proposed shape in purple. Actually, I think this is removed as well. That's my fault. This is currently District 5. District 6 is here in blue. That's the current shape. And then these changes. So this would be added. This would be added. This would be removed. And this is in District 6. No, yeah, I had it right. Okay. So this is still in District 6. So those are the proposed changes. And then here's the shape in blue. Just some numbers, and if you have questions about this, just let me know. We can take a closer look. But from the 2020 census to the proposed plan, so you can see the total population of the districts here. The district's share of total population, so this is how we have balanced. You know, this is 16% now, 17, 16, as opposed to it being unbalanced before as of the census. And then the deviations. So for example, you can see that District 1, as we started out this process, was 31% over. Now we're at -2%. All of that evens out to a 9.28% total for this proposal. And then here are the demographics. We have broad racial categories due to that we're given them that way for compliance with the Voting Rights Act. But these are the changes. So as we started in 2020 percentage, and then the proposed plan. So you can see that these percentages didn't change much. So there's not sort of a red flag in terms of changing demographics. These changes are within 1 to 2%. And that's it. Please let me know if you have further questions or want to look back at any of the images.
Hi there. Any questions? Any board discussion before we take public input? And then after public input, we'll ask for some potential action requested.
Mr. Chair, I have a couple of comments or questions.
Sure.
Discussion, hopefully. I wanted to thank staff, first of all, for all of their hard work and the wonderful technology that allowed me to watch the hearings, even though I wasn't in the country. So I appreciate that. And in doing so, there were a couple tweaks I wanted to discuss with this map. So I know you all probably want to shoot me because you're ready to be done. But two things that I just thought maybe we could talk about, and if I'm the only one that has concerns, so be it. But I just felt like I wanted to bring these up. The first one is the Stonebridge Commons neighborhood in Metro West that was split from the rest of Metro West 10 years ago. And that was brought up to us by Ms. Vargo, first of all. It was also in correspondence from the association. And then I believe Mr. Grayson talked about it at the April 21st meeting. Just that neighborhood had been kind of left out. So I didn't know, the problem is I'm bringing you a problem without a solution because I spent some time with staff trying to figure out where we could find those voters to put into District 5 if we were to remove them and put that neighborhood in District 6 with the rest of Metro West. And I don't have a perfect answer for you.
What was the result when you tried to do that?
We don't have enough voters, or enough people in District 5. It's already under, it just would not be within the deviation. There are ways to do it. There are places we could move boundaries, but again, I know it's kind of late in the game, but I felt like this is the one opportunity to have a discussion about it, and if it isn't a problem to anybody else, then that's fine.
I can speak to that. So
Okay, great.
I actually had a conversation with Commissioner Burns and also with his aide Jason about it, and we actually looked for ways to potentially make the Stonebridge community whole in Metro West.
Okay.
The challenge was the area is so dense right now.
Right.
There are approximately 3,000 residents within a 2.5 block radius. So we weren't able to absorb it without profoundly changing the map and potentially impacting District 5 as well. So we worked really hard in making that change. Unfortunately, it wouldn't work because of the numbers.
Okay. And I'm sure that 10 years ago, that was a consideration, and that's why it ended up that way. But I just wanted to point that out. And the second area was actually the Willows neighborhood that, again, Ms. Vargo brought up to us, and whether that should remain as part of District 5 instead of being moved into 3. Because just visually on the map, it's everything above Silver Star should be in 3. It just seems to me. I agree with her about the communities of interest and just cleaner lines, but again, that's I think 1,800 people or so that would again put District 5 below the deviation. So again, I raised the point just for purposes of discussion because I wanted to hear what the rest of the board might think about that.
Mr. Chairman, I could respond to that a little bit, maybe
Lee.
that last comment as well. I think the same issue came up. We spent a lot of time talking about a couple different components of District 5 and 6 and how that fits. And, some of these changes that were proposed would create the need, then there would be a deduction from District 5 that would need to be made up. District 5 started at 16% and it maintained 16%. And, that was kind of where the challenges were created. And so we did take a look at that, though.
Okay. And I'll echo that as well. Same thing. I thought maybe the Willows could move and it was a natural boundary line, but then we're taking so much from District 5 and the numbers already were scarce. So that's kind of why we ended where we did.
Right. Okay. Well, I did want to raise those issues, and like I said, I knew I wasn't bringing a solution. I was just bringing a problem to be discussed, but I thought it would be appropriate to have the whole board maybe talk about it. So thank you for your time on that.
Thank you. Anybody else like to have any discussion before we move into public comment? No? Okay. We will move into public input on the new business item. Do we have any members of the public wishing to give input?
Vicky Vargo, 3800 Wingfoot Court, Orlando 32808. So if you look at my map 10, the numbers are all almost even. So it is possible to bring that in into District 3 if there were some adjustments. So I'm very concerned about the changes in District 3, because what it does is it dilutes the community of interest in Northwest Orlando, and it really highlights that the District 3 plan is not racially neutral, and it is really almost hostile to the Northwest community of interest. So I think that there is a way, to bring it in. I'm going to talk about some other things under public comment, but just as to Mrs. Brenner's remarks as to that, there's a way to bring it in. There's a way to bring in the Central Florida Fair without impacting the numbers for District 5. So I disagree that there isn't a solution, but thank you so much for listening. But I'm very concerned about the lack of racial neutrality for the District 3 map and diluting the power of the Northwest my majority minority community of interest. It is of great concern to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public input? Anybody online? No? Okay. Oh, yes, ma'am, please.
Good evening.
Good
My name is
evening.
Maxine Isom. I'm here to say tonight I've been disappointed how this board has left the black voice out. We brought maps, we brought people saying the things that we want to see in District 6. The commissioner said what he wanted. The mayor said he wanted to hear the voice of the people. This board has not heard the voice of the people. I'm so disappointed that once again, the black voters do not have a voice in this city. And I'm going to leave you with this. Read my lips and look at my eyes. The city of Orlando and the ones who are sitting on this board, you're going to pay for this. When I say pay for it, God's going to have the last word.
Thank you. Any other public input? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public input and move on to action requested, which is the approval of the final report and recommendation of Proposal 1D. I would look for a motion and a second, and we'll have some discussion.
I'd like to make a motion.
Please.
Motion to approve the final report and recommendation of MAP 1D and send it to City Council.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion? I would just like to point out that I think there's been very little controversy on the board. We have had a few areas where we found common ground. It's been tough to push any population one way or the other without impacting other districts. It's been a very open process. I think we've had great input from every representative on the board. and especially from the current commissioners, none of whom have raised any objections as far as I can tell in terms of district representation. I would also like to point out that this is a volunteer advisory board. We are not the final vote on this. So we're getting I think the posture we're getting this map in is the closest that I think we could come to with consensus, and I think there's a lot of consensus here. And then it goes to City Council, and they can change it, they can throw it out, they can look at new maps, they can move the lines. So that's where the final approval will come. We're a volunteer board, and I'd just like to thank the board for their service, for their participation. We've had a lot of meetings, a lot of travel throughout the city. Definitely like to thank city staff for all of their input and taking us on the road. I think you went above and beyond to make sure that there was opportunity for input. So I'd like to thank you for that because that's paramount. Is there any other discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Please.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, and thank you for those remarks. I've taken this process very seriously and very seriously considered every proposal that we've gotten in, and I'm appreciative of the chance that we've had to discuss those in breakouts. As far as the representation and how we represented, I've been looking not just for my district, but across the districts as far as minority representation. You'll see that there's very little deviation over the current in the proposed maps. I think that's important. I think that serves the citizens, in particular the voice of the African American community, much better than if they were all of us were packed into a single district. So with the map that is proposed, we've kept a level of representation, particularly across District 5, that's very similar to what it is today. We've allowed the surrounding districts to also have representation. So when you look at the numbers are all there, and it does make sense. And there is a level of compromise we've had to have with these districts and across the districts, and I think we've achieved some balance there. So just want to state for anybody that's here, or anybody that's listening, that these concerns have been taken very seriously, and the review of the maps has been taken very seriously as well.
Thank you, Mr. Kirby. Anyone else?
I just want to echo
Please.
Dan's thoughts. I mean, we started at the very beginning with something, and I think we've come a long way, and I know it can't be perfect for everybody, but I know on this volunteer board, we spent a lot of time going all over Orlando, and this is what we have for now, and we tried. And I think we have a good endpoint to send it to City Council.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Please.
I'd like to follow that sentiment and say I was one of the first ones, to my knowledge, to turn a map in. And my map was one of the first ones to be pushed right back out because I had errors in it. Even though I passed, all the different hurdles, it wasn't a good map for the city because I didn't know all the districts. So the process does work. And the folks that know their district were part of each segment of this. So that's the success pattern. And I can tell you, as far as District 1, we lost the greatest amount of residents out of District 1. I've not heard one complaint because, again, we live in City Beautiful. We've got great districts all the way around, and it's up to the individuals in those districts to keep it going strong like that. Community involvement will keep us all moving forward. So again, I think everyone and staff too has been spectacular. We're very fortunate to have such a group.
Thank you. Any other?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
I'm sorry?
I would like to,
please.
Yes, I would like to add that this process, I understand that has kept the principles of redistricting at every step. It has been a process of going through different neighborhoods, and I think we've listened to all the different aspects in each district, and I think it's a well-balanced process and result at this point. I think we did go through a long process, and the results are there for review, of course. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Please, Ms. Riley.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Chair, for your leadership through this process, and for this entire board for the commitment of your time, and certainly for staff who took the time to actually educate us in the beginning on how the process actually worked. I think throughout the process in our visiting each of the districts, each district was given, I believe, a fair opportunity to represent their concerns before the board. And even though we were not able to satisfy every concern, I believe this board did take the opportunity to hear. We did make an attempt to hear and try to address the concerns that you did have. We were not able to do it all, and as it has been stated, every map is not going to be a perfect map. Every person, resident, is certainly not going to be completely satisfied, but we have heard you. One of my concerns during the District 6 meeting was the frustration from the audience that particularly the Black community was not being heard. And I want to assure you that we have heard you, and we have done what is within our power. We are not the final voice. We are not the final vote. We are simply making a recommendation. And so we thank each of you for your time and for your concern, for your patience throughout this process, and for your input. And so thank you.
Well said, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Show the motion passing unanimously. I don't think we're going to have any more board discussion, but we will now move into public appearances. So any members of the public, whether they're here or whether they're online, are welcome to come forward.
Vicky Vargo, 3800 Wingfoot Court, 32808. So just a couple of things. I think that there has been a perception when it came to the Central Florida Fair that I was acting as a lone actor. So I just want to, we'll be back in 10 years. I'll be a little bit grayer, but I'll be back. We'll be back. I've served on the Central Florida Fair for 22 years on that board. So here, as a nonprofit, we didn't feel like we could make a request, if you could, because we were a nonprofit. But here are the people who told me that I could represent, that we wanted to come into District 3 because the District 3 commissioners sit on this nonprofit. Former Commissioner Jeff Clark, former Commissioner Bruce Gordy, John H. Jennings III, Ralph Martinez, Bill Raffiere, James Guilente, and Walter Carpenter had all given me authorization to represent to you, that I could represent their support. So we will take this up next year after careful vetting of the next election. So one of the things I wanted to mention to you, on April 25th, Lisa Early, who is the Director of Family Parks and Recreation, did a great presentation on a City Council workshop. And she actually shared with us that shared in that workshop that she had actually started at Arnold Palmer Hospital working on children's issues, and was able to, and they determined while she was there that some of the problems facing children was that there just wasn't enough political will to do what needed to be done. So Mayor Dyer convinced her to come to the city of Orlando. And here are two factors that she said impede children's success. One is the lack of political power. So this goes to why I was so concerned about Northwest Orlando. So if you look at the numbers of the African American community from Mayor Hood till now, and the numbers are going down for the African American community significantly. So wherever we can create pockets of power, I think is very important. So I will be back 10 years from now to ask for that Willows to come into the Northwest community, because I think it helps create even a little bit more political power for that community. And the second thing she mentioned, that was a factor that impeded children's success, was individualism. And I think this came into play a great deal here on the redistricting board. And she described that as people only concerned about self-interest. And this relates mostly to District 3. So again, I just have a lot of concerns about that, and I'll just close by saying this.
You can have another 30 seconds if you'd like.
Okay. When I tried to approach the district commissioner in District 3 about the Willows, he literally shook his head, turned, and ran. So, as I said, we will be doing a better vetting the next go-around for representation. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional members of the public wishing to appear?
Cynthia Harris, 12 Channel Avenue, Orlando. Like you, we heard you. You said you heard us, but we still feel like it was on deaf ears, because at the end of the day, we feel like the map that you've chosen was already pre-planned. It doesn't appear that anybody has any options, even when it comes to city council. You're not pushing any other maps forward so that they can vote on them or hear public input at the end of the day, because you've already chosen your map. So yes, you heard us. We heard you. And I know you probably felt like at the District 6 meeting that you were caught off guard, bamboozled. But when you have a board that doesn't answer questions, or refuse or can't answer questions, this is where you have the problem with mistrust and not having an opportunity for us to have fair districting or equity or opportunity, let alone equality. So when you're saying that you heard us, we heard you too, loud and clear. It fell on deaf ears because you didn't answer our questions. This process has been is really been quite interesting, especially when there are other government entities that have operated a whole lot differently. I've never seen this process, even online, for any other government agency operate the way you have operated in this capacity. And yes, you're volunteers, and we're volunteers too in our community. And you probably think that I'm just here because I'm representing Malibu Groves. Well, when I came here, I said I represented Cynthia Harris, but I brought Malibu Groves with me as a backup, and we have turned in surveys as evidence as to what we want. But again, fell on deaf ears. So when you're saying that you're a volunteer, we volunteer every day too. But we live in these communities, we know what makes them tick, and we wanted an opportunity for you to hear our voices. And again, it fell on deaf ears. Thank you.
Thank you. Any members of the public?
I left something out. I don't know if you all knew that we had a Mr. Gregory Channel. He was supposed to be the alternate for District 6. Commissioner Burns appointed him. He was never presented on this board. And this is why we say we are being disrespected. I don't know if you knew that, but Commissioner Burns did, and Mr. Channel has been to all these meetings. And this is why we feel this way. And I've studied that map with District 5 and District 6 also. And there's some flaws in that map from the beginning. When I look at Lake, what would you call it, Demetria Homes? When I look at John Young, that community doesn't back up to anything. There's a lake there, there's a housing there, Lake Man Homes. And most of you know it as Lake Man Estates. That particular area backs up to the Housing Authority, which should be in District 6. But what I feel, when we came in here, the same map that you put up there from the beginning for District 5 and District 6, it's the same map. Nothing has been done. And I also spoke with the lawyer about how can you include an area where there's nobody living there. There was no one there for census that Commissioner Burns gave to District 5, Land Trust. And as far as District 1, I made a conscious effort to go out to Lake Lona. There's nothing that you all ever have to worry about because that area is building, building, building. And that's why I said, what's going to happen when they finish with Lake Lona? Are you going to bring people back? Because we're not growing in our area. We're growing some, but not in that area. And I still feel today we are not being heard. Nothing was done with District 5 and District 6. District 1 and 2. 3 tried. 4 got a little bit of District 6. This is heartbreaking. And like I said again, you haven't heard the last word of this. And I'm not pointing fingers at you all, because the final word is going to come from our commissioners. And of course, they're going to vote, because that's what they put in. I didn't hear anything from District 5 volunteer about what Commissioner Hill wanted, but I heard from District 6 what Commissioner Burns wanted. And I say to the mayor, District 5 and District 6 has not been represented properly.
Thank you. Any other public input? Anybody online? Anybody on the phone? Anybody sending any emails? Oh, please.
Gregory Chandler, 1893 Aaron Avenue, 4673 Vargas Street, Orlando, Florida. I was here for the very first meeting that was in this room, and I'm here now. This is not what needs to happen. Everyone that's in this room is a volunteer. Everyone wants to do the best that they can do for the people that they represent. But you can't leave the poor, the neglected, the ones who are being run over in the process for gain. And that's all that we see in our neighborhood right now. We have no gain in areas that cannot expand itself. We can only get crumbs and pieces from other areas and not have an opportunity to grow just like everyone else's district can grow. When you're locked into a situation where there's no expansion, the people suffer. And we look for you to represent us and help us in the situation that we find ourselves in, because the only thing that we have right now is the vote. The only thing that we can just change from where we are is to use that vote. So please, so that when you lay down tonight and from now on, think of the people. You may have the knowledge, but you don't have the wisdom and the understanding of what people in District 6 and District 5 are going through. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the public? Nobody online? Okay, this time I will close the public comment. And seeing no further action on the board, consider this meeting adjourned. Thank you.
It's exciting to cut the ribbon on Station 9, serving the Rosemont neighborhood. And along with being the home of some of the very best firefighters Orlando has to offer and having some of the best equipment, Station 9 was also built with firefighters' health and safety first and foremost. So the station was designed to promote diversity and inclusion in the workplace and includes private individual crew bunk rooms, showers and restrooms, and a secure room for special uses such as nursing.
Trailing Thoughts from Shingle Creek Trail. I've never seen more animals on a bike ride. Is that another water bird? They're like mini seaplanes. Imagine having the power of flight, only to spend so much of your day underwater. That's got to be really confusing and terrifying.